Hi everyone, welcome to ComicThon, where I'll be going through 28 movie reviews of comic book-based films for the month of February. Before we get started, I want to give a special thanks to Nintendo Fan 298 who came up with the name ComicThon. It's not the best, but it's better than any of the crappy names I came up with. Anyway, let's begin. Now, there's going to be a little bit of structure to it. There are 10 films based on DC properties, and then 10 films based on Marvel properties, and finally 8 films based on other assorted properties. Now, when doing DC reviews, you might expect to see the Batman movies, but I already reviewed most of them in my Batman feature, so here's something a little bit different. The original 1966 Batman movie starring Adam West as Batman. Now, it's not the first theatrical DC movie. That would actually be Superman and the Mole Men, released back in 1951, but this'll do for a start. As you probably know, the movie was spun off of the 60s TV show and shot right after its first season, though originally it was going to be the other way around, with the movie spinning off into the show. But the studio wasn't totally sold on the idea of a Batman movie, so the show was made first. Now, before getting into any details, let me get this out of the way. Yes, this movie is goofy, extremely, ridiculously, mind-bendingly goofy. But before you write it off as being stupid and silly, or merely being a product of the time when everyone is interested in how much drugs they can do in a day, the fact is the movie is quite aware of how ridiculous it is. In the beginning credits, a message appears saying, "We wish to express our gratitude to the enemies of crime and crusaders against crime throughout the world for their inspirational example. To them and to lovers of adventure, lovers of pure escapism, lovers of unadulterated entertainment, lovers of the ridiculous and the bizarre, to fun lovers everywhere, this picture is respectively dedicated." So you have to kind of go into it expecting it to be completely over the top, and boy is it. If you've ever seen the 60s Batman TV show, you know exactly what to expect, though if you can believe it, the movie is at times more ridiculous than the show, and at times it's more serious. It's a fun movie in a lot of ways, and if you view it as a comedy, it can be uproariously funny. Now, purists of the more serious Batman, take note. It's easy to say that they ran hog wild with the premise and ruined the concept of Batman, but the fact of the matter is that Batman comics of the 50s and 60s were pretty ridiculous, much lighter in tone and campier than the dark crime stories of the 30s and 40s. But the film also owes a lot to the old Batman serials, Batman and Robin from the 1940s, which came up with concepts such as the Batcave before they had even appeared in the comics, and came up with the idea of putting the Bat prefix on everything. The movie is a lot like the show, only instead of facing one villain, Batman and Robin have to face 4 of their most famous villains: the Joker, the Penguin, the Riddler, and Catwoman. They're played by some of acting's greats, Cesar Romero, Burgess Meredith, Frank Gorshin, and Lee Merriweather, respectively. And each actor clearly had a lot of fun hamming it up and overacting. The actors were completely nuts in some ways. Cesar Romero wouldn't even shave off his trademark mustache for the role. You can still see it underneath the Joker makeup. I don't want to go into a lot of detail on the plot, as it's mind-destroyingly stupid, and it isn't really the reason you see this movie anyway. But it involves the 4 villains coming up with a plot to hold world leaders for ransom by dehydrating them with a ray gun and keeping them in vials. Instead of just doing this, they spend most of the first 2/3 of the movie trying to get Batman and Robin out of the way. Batman and Robin are called in to investigate a missing yacht, which they go to in a Batcopter and find it. But it turns out to be a mirage. When Batman tries to lower himself onto the yacht, he winds up dipping into the water and being bitten by an obviously rubber shark. He can't seem to get the damn thing off his legs, so he has Robin pass down the shark-repellent bat spray. Yeah, that pretty much sets the tone for the entire film. Robin has to climb down to hand it to him, so who the fuck knows who's flying the helicopter? Well, that's Batman for you. Then later you find out they had a boat, and you have to wonder why the hell they took a helicopter out to find a yacht. The villains try all sorts of things, usually over the top and ridiculous, to get Batman and Robin out of the way, including Catwoman posing as a Russian woman and being the bait to capture Bruce Wayne. I thought it's hilarious that Batman and Robin can't figure out she's Catwoman, as she barely bothers to disguise her voice and even says, "Perfect," exactly like Catwoman does. Then again, when the Penguin comes up to them with an equally stupid disguise, they see right through it. It's complete pandemonium. You can't take a movie like this seriously, and you're not meant to. This is a film where one of the Riddler's riddles is, what has yellow skin and rights? And since Robin is always the one to solve the riddles, and Batman just nods and pretends he was thinking the same thing, it's hilarious when Robin comes up with a ballpoint banana, and Batman is just like, exactly, the only possible meaning. Everyone in the film is such a numb fucker that you can't help but laugh. It really is just pure entertainment, madcap comedy, and outright slapstick. My only real problem with the film is that although it's not really much longer than the typical two-part episode, it does feel really long in the middle. The part with Bruce Wayne hitting on Catwoman in disguise just drags on and on. At least when it cut to Robin and Alfred listening in, it was pretty funny. I also have to note that Adam West's performance is a little bit darker than on the show. He at one point threatens to bash someone brutally, and at another tells the villains that he will kill them by tearing them limb from limb. And that one was as Bruce Wayne, not Batman. That being said, if you're expecting a serious Batman film like the Tim Burton movie or the Christopher Nolan ones, you'll be very, very disappointed. But if you view it as something just meant to make you laugh with its sheer insanity, it's actually pretty good. So I'll give it a 7 out of a possible 10.